everybody in the world.
Hello everyone and welcome back yet again to the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. Hope you guys enjoyed that first segment. Before we get into our second segment of the day, still concerning prop bets as well, I do want to remind you yet again that if you do feel so inclined, and some of you have been doing a fantastic job of doing this already, make yourselves availed to the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and Super Stickers features here on YouTube so that you can interact more with the show. Anything you leave, questions, comments, concerns, tips, and donations are greatly appreciated by all concerned, especially me and my fellow podcasters here at the network. So consider doing that. We are making the show even better with your input. So continue doing what you're doing and continue having a positive response to the show. And I promise each and every single segment will get better and better. But without further ado, let us jump right into our second segment. Before we do that, I do want to address another comment we got from Pate. Should I replace Rico Dowdle or Keon Coleman with Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, or Jordan Addison? All three of them just got dropped into waivers. Now, this is an interesting one as well because when I look at Rico Dowdle and Keon Coleman, they're players who had a lot of hope and optimism coming into the season in terms of how they profile to fit into their different offenses, but so far have been kind of disappointing. It's clear to see that Dallas really has no sense of urgency in getting other players outside of, say, three guys like Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. I'll throw Jake Ferguson in there if they try and get him the ball. They're not trying to get any other offensive weapon going here. And really maddening if you're a fantasy owner of guys in the backfield for them, like Rico Dowdle, like Ezekiel Elliott. So I think that you are right in your sense of urgency to try and replace him as well. And I feel the same way about Keon Coleman. It's clear to me that this Bills offense under Joe Brady is transitioning more to playing it safe, whereas Keon Coleman could have been brought in to really try and extend the field and be one of those guys that can move the chains. But we're seeing more and more that when Josh Allen is throwing the football, it's either short passes or he's relying upon a guy in Khalil Shakir who he has already worked with. So I do believe your sentiment is correct in wanting to replace both of these guys. As to who out of Cooper, Allen, or Addison I would choose Jordan Addison. And the reasoning behind this is, yes, right now the Vikings wide receiver room is murky and he right now is unhealthy as well. But when he comes back, right, I feel like Sam Darnold has already proven with the weapons he has already that he's willing to distribute the ball to all of them. And there really hasn't been, outside of Justin Jefferson, a standout Vikings wide receiver. So once guys like Addison, Hockenson come back, be sure to really dive into the treasure trove that is the Vikings wide receiver room, because it's one of the most versatile and has proven to be one of the most versatile in the entire NFL. So that's a good question. So if you want to replace more, it's going to be interesting because I don't have much upside concerning Cooper or Allen. I think that both of them are on the older side. They're in offenses that really are kind of struggling at this moment in time. So I would say Jordan Addison has the most upside. Yes, you might have to wait a little bit for him, as Camden Christensen also jumps into this conversation. But we'll get to your comment in just 1 second, Camden. But to your point, Pate, Jordan Addison is the way to go to replace both of these guys. But let's go now to Camden's comment. Would you trade Jamar Chase and Ramondre Stevenson for Garrett Wilson and Jonathan Taylor? This is a very interesting trade as well, because I personally have, as Pate says, thank you, I personally have Garrett Wilson on my team, and he really has been kind of underwhelming. I think that he's one of those players, and I'll mention this tomorrow, who has the most to prove in the system for the Jets. So it's really just a matter of him clicking with Aaron Rodgers, and Jonathan Taylor on the other side of things as well. He's someone who I'm kind of disappointed in too. he's someone who I thought would really help set the tone for Anthony Richardson, not, hinder him or kind of lord over him in the backfield. So I don't necessarily think that package really holds more weight than what you're offering him in this league. Jamar Chase and Ramondre Stevenson. Let's look at it this way. Ramondre Stevenson holds the weight of two players right now because of his importance to the Patriots and most importantly his importance to their immediate success on offense. And Jamar Chase, yes, he's had the whole contract dispute. He hasn't necessarily looked himself early on. But at the end of the day, I'm not worried about the Bengals too much. I think they will find their footing. I think they will find a way to win more games. And Jamar Chase will be a big part of that. So in terms of this trade, I would not let this trade happen. As much as I love both Wilson and Taylor and believe they can truly progress through the season very well in terms of fantasy, I just think that right now, you're in a good place if you have guys like Jamar Chase and Ramondre Stevenson on your team because, A, Ramondre Stevenson is giving you a lot right now, and B, Jamar Chase is going to give you a lot in the future. So maybe at a later date, another trade would work out in this situation because I'm still kind of concerned about Ramondre Stevenson in this offense and especially concerned for his health. But right now, this trade should not go through at this point in time. I hope that helps you, Cameron, and good luck to you in all your fantasy exploits as well. So, without further ado, though, let us get into our Thursday Night Football props, starting off with Ramondre Stevenson here. And Cameron Christensen does mention that his team here has Stroud, Ramondre Stevenson, Gibbs, and as he agrees with me, what I do want to shout out your team here because as I'm looking at it, it's a solid team too. Stroud, Ramondre Stevenson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Chase, Nico Collins, McBride, and Etienne. I think holding them will be the move as well. I agree. This is a very solid team. You have a very solid, high-end QB in your system. Ramondre Stevenson, as always, is going to be kind of boomer bust in the weeks to come, but right now he has a lot of value. Jahmyr Gibbs, I expect him to grow as well. That receiving room, very impressive, especially with Nico Collins and there stacking with CJ Stroud. And McBride and Travis Etienne rounding it out. You can't get better than that. McBride really growing into this team. I really think he's going to be a huge asset in that Arizona Cardinals offense. And Travis Etienne will have to step up for the Jacksonville Jaguars to have any hope of finding any offensive footing. And thank you to Camden Christensen for your comments. But looking at Thursday Night Football, really going to be a little bit brief here in terms of summing everything up. As much as I appreciate your comments, we do have a little less time now to go over these props. Ramondre Stevenson, though, I think this game, it will be safe to say he will hit the over. I'm really, like I said, concerned about what his prop bets are going to look in the future. As you know, the wear and tear of an NFL season has its effect on him, but up to this point, he's averaged 100.5 yards per game exactly, 4.4 yards per carry. So I'm not worrying too much about him. I'm still holding out hope that he will continue to have a fantastic season, but it's all dependent on whether or not, opposing defenses are looking to shut him down as well, to shut down the Patriots as well, because as he goes, the Patriots go. That's what I think. And there's only a certain point where bully ball can get you wins or keep you in games, so it might have to change in the future. But Ramondre Stevenson, for now, is always going to be a solid option. Let's look at a player who also kind of has a little bit of a point to prove. Maybe not as much as others in this game, but Aaron Rodgers. I think that up to this point, we really haven't seen, much of Aaron Rodgers as a fantasy prospect, but in terms of how he's fitting into the system, I feel like it's starting to click a little bit more. I feel like he's getting more comfortable, and he will continue to get more comfortable as the season goes on. But right now, it's kind of in limbo as to how the Jets in these early stages will progress. But it's all about progression with this offense. That being said, I do see him having under 31.5 pass attempts and at minus 114. I'll take this bet because I think that in order to beat the Patriots, as my I'll take the Seattle Seahawks blueprint and how to beat the Patriots. You either have to grind them out on the ground, really stretch the defense on the perimeters, as Hunter 18 entered the chat. As he says, someone in my league dropped Zeke. Should I pick him up? If so, who do I drop? Benson, Bigsby, Dowdle, or Swift? Now this is an interesting one because Zeke is one of those players who I really was holding out hope for as soon as he signed with the Cowboys. I was thinking he could be a fantastic fit for this team. As Hunter also says, it's a PPR. When I look at your running back rooms, Benson, he's an interesting player. Bigsby as well. Both of those guys are still very young. Trey Benson in that Arizona Cardinals offense does kind of look appealing. Dowdle, we've talked about him a little bit so far, not getting as many touches as we hoped. And DeAndre Swift, I have him on my PPR team personally as well, and he's been disappointing, as has the Bears' run game in general. So I think that you can pick up Zeke because he's an interesting risk to take, and even though your running back room isn't necessarily the best per se, there's a lot of depth there. You did very well in having players who provide a lot of balance, but also are kind of hopeful prospects as well. So I say go for it, but at this point in time, I'm not sure what he would bring to your team. That being said, in order to pick him up, the player who I think you would drop from this has to be Bigsby, because I don't think that he's going to be as impressive as we've seen him. We don't have as much statistical evidence that he can continue producing in an offense, but who knows? I say that you should go for it, and you should go for it knowing the fact that your running back room is just very well balanced, if that. So thank you for your comment, Hunter. Good luck to you and your fantasy exploits. But just closing out this prop bet segment, because we have run out of time a little bit, let's talk about the other QB in this situation very briefly. Jacoby Brissett, just kind of being that serviceable, competent quarterback you want if you're an NFL team who does not have a good QB situation. Not necessarily, forcing anything, but protecting the ball just the same. But he's going to be under 168.5 pass yards. Thank you to you as well, Hunter. Hopefully that whole process works out for you. Jacoby Brissett, though, I just think that at this moment in time, they're still going to go with what they've got. Gerard Mayo seems insistent on his plan working, and the plan is the run game, at least offensively. So look for Jacoby Brissett. But let me know what you think in the comments about Jacoby Brissett and Aaron Rodgers, and overall the skill position players as well in this Thursday night matchup. But that will just about do it for this segment. Coming next, we continue with my personal positional rankings for the week ahead. Looking at the wide receivers, bear with me though. There are some last-minute adjustments I had to make to this list due to all the injuries at the wide receiver position. But it should be a fascinating segment that you don't want to miss. But we'll be right back after this short break.